Imagine this. You're squeezed into a spacesuit outside the space station, high above Earth. You hang weightless, tethered to the space station. All around you, space is dark, and beneath you, the Earth fills your view. Then something goes wrong. You feel moisture on the back of your neck. Your communications with mission control start cutting out as a thin film of water starts to fill your ears, your eyes, your nose, your mouth. Then the space station flies into Earth's shadow, and it is pitch black. You can't see, you can't hear, you can't speak. And worst of all, you can barely breathe. In 2013, astronaut Luca Parmitano was on a spacewalk when water from his spacesuit's cooling system started to back up into his helmet. That day, I was at the European Astronaut Centre training astronauts just like Luca. His spacewalk, like every spacewalk, was the highlight of his mission. Now, spacewalks are risky, but they're also quite routine, and none of us was expecting any problems. But as events unfolded that day, we all stopped. We were glued to our monitors. The biomedical engineers rushed into the control room, looking at all the telemetry and data coming down from the space station. Our ground control team were listening in to mission control in Houston, desperately trying to maintain contact with Luca and the other astronauts on the space station. We were all getting an extreme reminder that things don't always go to plan. And even with the most cutting-edge technology surrounding us, our success, even our survival, depends on how we adapt. Whether we keep a cool head, whether we work the problem, whether we can creatively explore ways to overcome challenges. As Lucas said, we are explorers. The skills of our engineers and the technology around us make things appear simple when they are not. And perhaps sometimes we forget this. Better not to forget. So skills and technology only get us so far, as Luca found out that day. And to gain those skills, most of us grew up going to school where our days were broken into neat time blocks, just short enough to hold our attention. We learned subjects in fixed blocks before moving on to the next subject, the next class, the next exam. And as we grow a little older, we aren't taught how to use and adapt this knowledge in new and novel situations. We are taught to recall it, not to be creative, but to pass exams, to put the right words in the right box within the right word count. My first job after university was teaching A-level psychology students, and this is exactly what I taught them: how to pass exams, how to get the best marks on the mark scheme. Our education system can crush children's ingenuity if we are just asking them to store facts and regurgitate them. We are literally calling it an education system, as if there's a clear input, a process, and an output, as if learning about the world were really that simple. And once we leave this system and go out into the real world, we're met with more rules, more guidelines, more expectations, maybe even a nice micromanaging boss to tell us exactly what to do and when to do it. So why is this a problem? Well, when we're met with new and novel situations, we freeze. When there's no clear path, we wait to be told what to do. And when we are met with challenges, we panic. Luca was met with a huge challenge. He didn't have a checklist for how to deal with drowning in space. He had to think fast. He had to work the problem. And these are the kind of skills we all need, not just in space, but here on Earth. Because I believe the future is filled with possibilities, but only if we stop shutting the door on creativity and start letting it in instead. Only if we allow people to think outside the box, and better yet, not put them in the box in the first place. The greatest challenges of the future won't be solved by those with the longest list of qualifications and the highest marks. They will be solved by those who see these challenges as opportunities and not threats. As Lucas said, we are explorers, and he's right. We were all born to explore. Those of you who've been around young children, and I have 2 young daughters, so I know this, they love to explore. They love to break things. They love to fix things. They love to push our boundaries. They love to get into trouble. And if given a toy, they rarely use it the right way, and we all know they'd rather play with the box instead. We crush this creativity out of them with all our rules and systems. And now is the time to bring that explorer's spirit back. Because whole industries are changing, adapting. Some are vanishing completely. Some are being built from scratch. The greatest forces shaping our future, such as AI, climate change, space exploration, won't be shaped by those who follow the rules. They will be shaped by those who build new systems, create new pathways, and really explore what's possible. For years, I have trained astronauts and ground control teams to do exactly this, to problem solve, to lead, to collaborate, to make quick and effective decisions, basically how to explore. And underpinning all of this are 3 key components. You need to build an explorer's environment. You need to create an explorer's mindset. And then you need to creatively explore open-ended challenges. So first, let's build an explorer's environment. To do this, we need trust, we need to take risks, and we need to work as a team. When the oxygen tank exploded on the mission of Apollo 13, the mission quickly turned from landing the astronauts on the moon to getting them home alive. Those of you who've seen the film of Apollo 13 might remember the scene where the engineers in mission control were given a box of objects and told, you need to make this fit into that using only this. And these objects were the same items that the astronauts had on board that the engineers had to work with. They created a carbon dioxide filter with these objects because they worked in an explorer's environment where no idea was too wild to be voiced, where invention was expected, and where no one worked alone. That's how they got the crew home alive. That's how they solved the problem. So the second thing, create an explorer's mindset. So we've seen how great problem solving happens in an explorer's environment, but environment isn't enough. We have to train our minds to think like explorers. The biggest roadblock to this isn't a lack of intelligence, it's a fear of being wrong. How many of you have stopped yourselves from speaking up because you weren't 100% sure? My dad is one of the most creative problem solvers I know. And growing up, he instilled many lessons to me and my sisters, but one really important lesson: question everything. If someone tells you it can't be done, prove them wrong. So when I was 12, I decided I wanted to learn how to fly. And my parents took me to the local air cadets, and I learned all about aeroplanes. I got to do some gliding at the weekend. I did some aerobatics in the Bulldog. And by the time I was 17, my dad then started taking me to flying lessons. I got my pilot's license when I was 17, studying for my A-levels before I even got my driving license. So my dad still had to drive me to the airport so that I could take him flying. But this is what it's all about. We don't need to know all the right answers. We just need to figure it out. We need to have the confidence and the will to figure things out. This is what the explorer's mindset is really about. And lastly, explore open-ended challenges. So we have to put all this to the test. And during astronaut training, we give the astronauts and the ground control teams multiple scenarios and situations. And we deliberately input failures. Things break, communications fail, resources run out. And the point of this isn't just to watch them fail. The point is to give them problems that they have to adapt and solve in real time, that they don't know the answers to, that they've never come across before. This is what we all need to do at work, at home, at school, ourselves, our kids. We don't need to be astronauts to benefit from this. Build an explorer's environment, create an explorer's mindset, and then explore using open-ended challenges. So let's go back to Luca on the outside of the space station. He made it back to the airlock in time before the water filled his nose and mouth. Mission Control and the astronauts in the space station still couldn't hear him or speak to him, even once he was in the airlock, and he had to wait to repressurize his suit. And all they could do was, the astronauts on the space station, was hold his hand and, squeeze his hand to make sure he was okay. They knew, and all of us on Earth and the ground knew, that we had a serious problem. But we figured it out. We had prepared for the unknown, and when it came, we were ready. So what choice will we all make for ourselves and our children? Do we keep teaching people for a world that was? Or do we start preparing them for the unknown, to create, to adapt, to explore the greatest opportunities of our time? Thank you.